Thank you. I'm going to try to talk over allergies. I just got back from Austin, where I lived for 20 plus years, and I hadn't been there in a few years. And my body's like, whoa, I thought we were done with this stuff. So it was pretty bad over there. So really excited to talk about Cerebrum DAO and what we've accomplished as a DAO and how DAO models work. So I want to relay some of that. We're going to do it all through the context of brain health and what our mission is, which is pursuing a brain health moonshot. The good news is everybody here has a brain, so this is all relevant for every one of you, and brains decrease in cognition and they do age, so there are things we can do about it, and we're trying to create those things. So our vision is to end all brain diseases, so we envision a world of only healthy brains, and the science behind this is so critical because healthy brains lead to better lives and better societies, and so the more healthier all of our brains are, the better life experiences we're going to have and the better we're going to be interacting and socializing. And as you all know, it's a rough world out there right now, so I think we can all use some better brain health. I got into this, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a neuroscientist, I'm not a drug developer, I'm a software entrepreneur. So my motivation was my daughter. She's now 14. She was born with Down syndrome, and I share this at every conference and speaking event. People with Down syndrome are 90+% likely to get early onset Alzheimer's, and so we've made a lot of advances that are giving them long, healthy lives. But unfortunately, their 60s is their limit because Alzheimer's is forming in their 30s and 40s and symptomatic in 50s and 60s, and they're all dying from Alzheimer's. And so this was frustrating. So after about 8 years of life, I did a look back and said, well, where are we on the Alzheimer's cure? And, 8 years of time went by and not much had happened. And I was like, I had enough. There's got to be a better way to do this. And I started looking into why that was. And, okay, my slides got reversed. So I turned to the old sage Charlie Munger and said, well, okay, what should I be thinking about here? And he's like, well, show me the incentive and I'll tell you the outcome. And I said, all right, let's look at the incentives. Well, we've had decades of funding, and the funding has happened more and more through government institutions. And so that growing green bar that you see that's just massive on the bottom is the money that comes from NIH for funding Alzheimer's disease. And so you can see that 90+% of the funds come from one institution that's been around for decades, that's run by unelected bureaucrats that are allocating dollars from the people that actually need the solution to the problem. And what it's created is this giant honeypot that everybody's figured out how to get their hands onto from institutions like this one we're sitting in right now. And their goals are not to cure Alzheimer's, their goals are to publish and then move on to the next thing. And a lot of research is happening, but nothing's being incentivized to drive through to therapeutic outcomes. And so you can imagine with those incentives lined up, here's your outcome. We have an aging population, so we're getting older, our brains are aging, which is causing an epidemic in Alzheimer's disease. And the numbers are absolutely staggering, and they're actually worse than what's on the screen right now. And even today, because Alzheimer's pathology develops for decades before symptoms show up, we probably have 40 or 50 million Americans walking around with pre-symptomatic Alzheimer's, and they just don't know it. And then our cognition drops. So you see, once we hit our the funny thing about our brain, the frontal lobe doesn't develop until our mid-20s, and then our cognition starts dropping in our mid-40s. So you got about 20 years of an effective brain. And that doesn't have to be that way, but that's the way it's going to be if you don't do anything about it. And the science is telling us you can bend that curve, and we do think we can prevent Alzheimer's. And this is all relatively new science of the past 4 or 5 years. And so what can we do? BioDAOs. I was like, all right, well, if you've got $3 billion going into Alzheimer's research that is coming from your pockets, your taxpayer money, then what if we opened it up to 7 or 8 billion people globally and said, let's put the agency in your hands, let's have you be co-funders of this and co-governors of this, and let's pool our resources and find the best research on the planet, and then allocate the capital with more risk, more shots on goal, improve the diversity of hypotheses, and have broad global community engagement. So I think that's what's possible with BioDAOs. So we're doing that with Cerebrum. We launched our token a little bit over a year and a half, almost a year and a half ago. Raised a couple $1 million with our token sale of Neuron. We funded 3 IP NFTs. We actually funded a 4th one now. These IPTs are all traded right now, so each one of these has been spun off as a separate IPT with a follow-on funding. And you can buy into each one of these projects that are looking at different forms of solutions to Alzheimer's disease. The first one, Percepta, is really interesting. It's going into a human clinical trial in about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And what we're trying to prove is that a natural product that's safe and effective, has been on the market for a while, is actually neuroprotective against things like Alzheimer's disease. We'll work on what kind of claims we can make with that, but I think the data could potentially show that it does affect tau and tangle, amyloid and tau tangle pathology. We made a couple strategic investments as well that are on the path to clinic. And then we're working on how do we engage consumers in their brain health. And so this is an app that I'm working on separately as a sister company. And what we're trying to do is pull consumers in to practice brain healthy habits, because we now know, because of the Lancet Commission of 2020, that if you practice brain healthy habits throughout your life, you have a very good chance at preventing and certainly delaying onset of Alzheimer's disease. And so we've encapsulated the best research into an app that helps you practice those habits. And then we've also partnered with a way to measure that. We have the only non-invasive, scientifically validated, holistic metric of brain health that looks at 22 factors of your brain health. And so now I can give you a number of what your brain health is. We can give you habits to practice, and you can track your progress on that number over time. And there's a new study coming out that shows it doesn't matter what your age, your gender, or your starting point. If you do this, your number goes up and your brain health gets better. And then this is the product that's on the market right now, that if you follow this project over the next 6 months, we should have some very compelling human data that it is a neuroprotective solution. So what's the end game for these BioDAOs? What can we do that the NIH can't do and that a lot of foundations couldn't do? Well, we have community engagement that we expect to go into the millions. We pull data in. We can empower AI agents on top of that to generate new unique insights. We can make the data and the AI agents available to researchers to help find better pathways to solutions, and then we can start funding those solutions on a broad basis. So we can really accelerate things. We're not going to accelerate the process to a safe, effective therapeutic, but we can certainly accelerate identifying promising candidates to push through that pipeline. So I think that is really the power of BioDAOs, and if you're interested in the brain health one, you can find us here. Hopefully I got that.